Hi everybody, it's Honest John. Since the beginning of civilization, there has been trade. Countries trade with each other. Our history books are filled with the stories of people. For example, Marco Polo, who opened up trade between one country or one continent and another. Christopher Columbus wasn't looking for America. He was looking for a shorter route to India. There just happened to be this huge continent in the way. And the shortest route was the one that they were already using. For the most part, trade is a good thing. If one country has steel and the other country has silk, they both benefit from trading with each other. But it can be a little complicated when you are trading something that the other country already has. Sure, we want to import cheese from Holland and Switzerland and France and Italy and all the other places that have cheese, because then you have a lot more varieties of cheese. But you also want your own cheese industry to thrive. So now we live in a world where that is interconnected in ways that have never existed before. Most obvious example is that when you call tech support, the guy could be around the corner from you or on a whole other continent. Your car, your clothes, your phone are likely to be made in another country, or at least to have parts that were manufactured in another country. But as jobs have migrated overseas, there is a growing anti-trade sentiment here in the U.S. And part of the problem is that while the wealthy elite and the corporations have profited greatly from outsourcing and from trade deals, the American worker has not. And this is because of the weakening of unions that has been a fundamental policy of the Republican Party. They have been very successful at it. And the result has been rising income inequality, and also that the American worker had no seat at the table when these trade deals were created. Ironically, the people who complain the most about this are Republicans, who continue to vote for people who work against them. We could have eliminated a lot of outsourcing simply by getting rid of tax breaks that support outsourcing. Companies actually do get tax breaks when they move jobs overseas. If we eliminated that would get rid of some outsourcing. But try getting that past the Republican Congress. Or if there were worker protections and living wage clauses and union protections in trade deals. But try getting those things past the Republican Congress. But doing those things would make outsourcing, it wouldn't eliminate it, but it would make it a little less attractive for businesses to do. But the Republicans, they don't even support those things here, so obviously they're not going to support them overseas. But trade deals are not the only reason that manufacturing jobs are disappearing. As a matter of fact, there's a phenomenon now called reshoring, where a lot of manufacturing jobs are coming back into the United States. Because when you do outsource something, when you do outsource manufacturing, then you have to ship it back here, and that adds to the cost. So as those travel costs have risen, manufacturers are saying, well, it doesn't make any sense to do that over there. We can do it over here and get it on a truck and get it to Indiana instead of having to fly it 12,000 miles and then put it on a truck and get it to Indiana. But the number of manufacturing jobs is never going to go back to what it once was. And this has nothing to do with trade deals. It is about technology. Advances in computing and robotics have allowed manufacturing plants to become more efficient, to use less people to do the same amount of work. The job that used to be done by a person on an assembly line is now very likely to be done by a mechanical arm or some other device that can perform a repetitive task without getting distracted, tired, or bored. Back in 1977, I worked briefly for Xerox at night, on the night shift, making copies. I would take a piece of paper from a pile, copy it, and then put the original in another pile and the copy in another pile, and do that over and over again. That job no longer exists. All that is required is for one guy to load the copies into a machine, and the machine does all the rest of the stuff. It sorts it and creates as many piles as you need. And the other thing that the machine doesn't do is make copies of their middle finger or their ass and stick that in the pile of papers that they're making, so that right in the middle of a meeting, as a person is reading his report, all of a sudden there's a big middle finger staring at them. The robot doesn't have that sick sense of humor that I used to have. And there were a lot of people working with me. But those jobs no longer exist because technology has evolved. So even if we ended every single trade deal, it wouldn't bring my old job back, or the countless other jobs that have been lost to automation. So even though I am for renegotiating trade deals to minimize outsourcing and to protect workers, it's important to understand that there are some jobs that are just gone, and they won't be coming back whether we have trade deals or not. Thanks for listening.